Welcome back to all of you, both here in Brussels and online on our live stream for the closing plenary session of SEMIC 2024. I have one more red or green question for you, just to get us all started here for the plenary closing session. Since Belgium is handing the presidency of the Council of the European Union to Hungary at the beginning of next week, I would want to hear from you. Do you think that the Belgian athletes will win more gold medals in the upcoming Olympics than the Hungarian athletes? Who thinks that Belgium will win more gold medals than Hungary? It's a bit of an even playing field here between, I think we have a slightly Belgium-inclined audience in Brussels here, but I think it's fair to say that only time will tell. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we started this conference this morning with a high-level panel to outline the vision that underpins the Interoperable Europe Act. And the overarching theme of today's event, the fil rouge, if you like, was to get our heads together and to join forces in shaping a pathway to translate that vision into reality and into practical implementation. Now, during our program today, we already heard the perspectives of experts and policymakers on very relevant topics that can contribute to shaping this path forward. We learned and listened to topics such as digital-ready policymaking, interoperability solutions for proactive public services, and strategies for data sharing and reusing IT solutions. And now, we'd like to host another high-level panel to explore how to translate that long-term vision into tangible reality. So we've carefully handpicked a fine selection of digital experts from the European Commission, from technology federations, from public services, and from non-governmental organizations. And we would like to discuss with this high-level, high-caliber panel the challenges and solutions, including building skills, to translate vision into reality from the level of cities and regions, looking through the lens of the European perspective, whilst linking all of that with the global vision of interoperable public services. And here I must admit, this is beyond my skill set and way out of my league. So in order to harness the insights of such a high-level panel, to streamline the discussions, to connect the dots and to paint a picture that links vision with reality on a canvas of interoperable and future-proof public services, I am convinced that you need a moderator who is very well acquainted with the subject of semantic interoperability, who understands the intricacies and the challenges related with data sharing between different administrations, and who also exhibits the rare gift of knowing how to animate a panel discussion with eloquence, with passion and purpose. And after very long discussions and close scrutiny, we came to the fascinating conclusion that such a unique profile already exists in the team of DJ Digit. The lady I'm about to introduce to you has interoperability as her middle name. Together with her team, she's working diligently and tirelessly towards creating an interoperable Europe through policies and common platforms in partnerships with public administrations of the different member states and also an active community of experts. She is leading the Interoperability and Digital Government Unit at DJ Digit, and hence certainly not a stranger around this SEMIC community. So may I propose that we welcome her on stage as the rock and roll star that she truly is. Can I have a seismic applause for Leontina Sandu, ladies and gentlemen?
Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, what an introduction. So Philip, he's always outdone himself when he introduces the speakers. I'm very humble. Thank you very much for this. Can I have some green cards of approval, please? Just to, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please have a seat. So I think we're ready to start. Philip was saying that I'm leading the Interoperability and Digital Government Unit at the Commission. I have the privilege to do so. And because I have this privilege, this is actually my third SEMIC, and I believe that is the most exciting so far. I hope for those of you that have been to previous editions, you feel the same way. And actually, 2 years ago, I was on this very same stage, and I was talking about interoperability as being the diplomacy for data. And I was also talking at the time about interoperability as being the sauce, the secret sauce to next generation digital government. Well, since then, we've actually been looking on how to make this sauce tastier and stickier. And we also draw inspiration from some member states who call interoperability the sauce that keeps the lasagna together. Now, 2 years ago, we were still looking for what the key ingredient would be. Now, I think we know what that key ingredient is, and that is the Interoperable Europe Act. I'm not going to bore you with more details about the Act, because I think you've heard enough today, but I just want to say that the Act sets a target, sets a vision. It's a kind of a map that gives us the hints on the road to take to achieve an interoperable digital Europe, and it also gives us some principles to build the next generation digital government, which is a digital government that is interoperable, that is data-driven, artificial intelligence enabled, human-centric, and last but not least, one that is sustainable. So we're going to spend the next hour with our esteemed panelists in trying to demystify what this next generation digital government needs, what we have at our disposal as a foundation, and what we should pick on to build for the next, for the future. So let me introduce our esteemed speakers. I will start from my right, Hilde Herdeman. Thank you for coming, Hilde. Hilde is the Director General at the European Commission in charge of the Publication Office. And we can actually say that Hilde is the face of the Commission towards its constituency, showing what the European Union does and what it actually means. So you're actually in a top spot to talk about how unlocking the power of data contributes to transparency, trust, and digital transformation in the public sector. You also have an extensive background in foreign policy, but also policy for investments and jobs. So thank you for coming and welcome. Then we move to Jack Hammond. Jack, welcome. Jack is the Director General responsible for simplification and digitalization at the Belgian Federal Public Service, BOSA. And prior to that, you've actually worked at Walt Disney, Cisco, Verizon, and you've led a series of teams in charge of network, security, and cloud. And then you got bored of the private sector and you moved to the public sector, and you took over the organization and personnel development at the federal Belgium government as a Director General. So welcome, Jack. Then we have with us Saskia van Oefelen. Welcome, Saskia. You are the digital skills leader, and you're also leading the National Coalition for Digital Skills and Jobs in Belgium. You're also leading the digital team at Agoria, which is the federation representing tech companies in Belgium, and you promote the Be the Change program, which is a program that goes for talent transition in a sustainable world. You have an impressive 25 years of experience in the ICT sector with companies like Ericsson, HP, Ball. Thank you very much for coming, Saskia, and we look forward to hearing your views. Then, next, I will go to Martin Brinskov. Martin is the founding director at the Open and Agile Smart Cities Communities. Martin, you're actually the voice of citizens and communities today towards big tech and regulators like the Commission, and you promote the Minimum Interoperability Mechanism, or MIPS, as many of us know it. You have a background in research, computing, interactive technologies, and you have coordinated many European digital transformation actions. So look forward to hearing your views. And last but not least, we come to Natalia Aristimuño Perez, her second time on stage today. And that's because you're actually one of the architects of the Interoperable Europe Act. So you will tell us all what went on behind the scene. Natalia is the director in charge of digital enablers at the European Commission, digital services. And she's actually an accomplished leader in charge of key digital transformation initiatives at the Commission, from developing software and services for HR, decision-making, knowledge management, to more recently, digital trust and artificial intelligence. So thank you all for accepting the invitation, and let's get started. But before we do, I just wanted to announce that this is a session where we plan to take questions from the audience. So those of you in the room and those of you remotely, please use the QR code to ask your question or vote for one. But that only if we have enough time, which means that we need to move rather quickly and be efficient. So without further ado, first round of question, the same question for all my panelists today. What is your current focus area in digital government, and in particular cross-border interoperability? So let's start with you, Hilde, please.
Thanks so much, Leontina, and good afternoon, everybody. It's my second time at SEMIC, and it's a great pleasure to be here again. Congratulations for the organization, and thanks for having me. Leontina already introduced me, so I don't need to do that. I lead the Publications Office of the European Union. Now, what do we do? As Leontina said, our mission is to inform the public about what the EU does and means for them, and to help unlock the power of data. And at the very core of our mandate is a systemic function, that is to authenticate and publish EU law to give it legal effect. Without publication, no EU law. We do so since 1952, not me. Since 2013, we publish digitally by default on our site, Your Lex, and we do so every day, several times a day, normally speaking, also Saturdays and Sundays. So this is really digital government in action. Now, you will ask, how does that link with interoperability and cross-border data sharing? First of all, the European Union is an interoperability project in itself, but also in many more technical, practical ways. While our systemic role to publish EU law to give it legal effect is really the core of our core business, our mandate covers two interrelated strands. First, that of a center of excellence for data, information, and knowledge management that serves all the EU institutions. We are a DG of the Commission. We serve the Commission, but also the Parliament, the Council, up to the European Central Bank. And then secondly, and that's very important in a time of disinformation and misinformation, to be a reliable source of trustworthy data and information from and on the EU. Now, what is our focus today? Three things. First, standardization for interoperability. We look at data, metadata, formats, semantics, and so on, with an EU interinstitutional mandate and interlinking EU institutions and EU member states. Second, data sharing in different ways. Maybe some of you were at the session on data spaces. We contribute to the data spaces with a focus on legal data and public procurement data on the one hand, and with a focus on tools and support mechanisms on the other hand. We are also the official publisher of European open data, including high-value data sets and the register of European public service protected data, and then through a wide range of actions to foster data uptake and reuse, data maturity and data literacy across Europe. And our third focus, in addition to standardization and data sharing, is really to make sure that we stay fit for purpose and that we can continue delivering service 24/7 today and in the future, high value added service to our stakeholders, which include member states, EU institutions, citizens, businesses, the public at large, in short, to all of you in this room. On this, I'll conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilde. And I think you just gave us a new motto, that the European Union is an interoperability project in itself. Thank you very much for that. I think we're going to take it on and for sure put it on the Interoperable Europe portal. Thank you. Jack, let's go to you next, please.
1, 2, 1, 2. Do you hear me? Yes?
Yeah.
I'm a bit confused now because we start to talk about lasagna and now we talk about something else.
We can talk about pasta too.
I don't know, I'm hungry, then I was talking, do you like lasagna? Show me if you are red or green, but I don't believe it's the purpose. And just maybe a second thing, that if you continue to ask difficult questions on this chat, we will just change anonymous by giving your name. And, you know, and if we have your name, we will cancel your flight, your train, and you will be obliged to stay in Belgium. More seriously, Federal Public Services, BOSA, we're in charge of different things. Just to very short on the other ones, we're in charge of national budget together with the region. 2, we are the HR Office of Federal State, recruiting training. 3rd, we do e-procurement platform and federal content. And 4, we are simplification and digitalization. Then, before I continue to explain what we do, I will say I'm very happy and congratulations to my colleagues from the region, especially Flemish region, to make this event possible. And thank you to them. They are in the room today, and it's wonderful. And what we do at BOSA every day, and since 2022, we changed slightly. We were digital transformation, and we moved to simplification. Then, complexity to simplicity. And when we talk about interoperability, it's about the same. Then all the solutions we are building in everyday life of citizen companies, but also from public administration, is delivering common platform and standards. Just to give you a few examples, in the daily life of the citizen, when you go to, maybe too much would say some people, but when you go to public institutions at federal level platform, you will go to websites. We operate similar platform in the back end to make sure that we have a same language, a same architecture, a same format, even if in the front end we have different content, obviously. Another example for the citizen is that we operate authentication services, which means for a population of about 11 million people in Belgium, every day, every minute, we have between 7,000 to 12,000 unique citizens connecting to one public institutions using a solution which is shared by the public administration. And even if we are partnering with external parties, we are making that interoperable, means that the end user can use an application which is interoperable with our system to connect to the public institutions. That's about the citizens. Another things we do for the administration is connecting together with our colleagues from the region platforms by exchanging what we call service integration, which means connecting thousands of different public institutions to build the highway of exchanging data between the different organizations from local to regional to federal. And this is something we do together at the different levels in Belgium, and this is really a key example of exchanging billions of data for the purpose of simplifying the life of citizens and so on. Then the tradition is that we also do coordination between ourselves, based of course on the discussion we have at the European level, on developing same semantic for data. If we would like to provide advanced, innovative services and integrated, we obviously need to integrate and speak the same language. I would stop there just to say that interoperability is in the DNA, and the Interoperability Act is something which is giving us extra ambition to the future.
Well, I'm so happy to hear that, Jack. First of all, as a Belgian resident and also as a European citizen, this is great. You talked about creating highways for data. I think this is also something that we've been promoting with the Interoperable Europe Act, a network of networks to make sure that data flows seamlessly from local to regional, national, and European. So great that here in the center of Europe things are happening and Belgium is leading the way. Happy to hear that. Saskia, do you agree with Jack's assessment? And what is your take on cross-border interoperability and digital government?
Obviously, no. No, but I still have to talk with him tomorrow. So,
okay.
No, first, I have very difficult to speak the word interoperability. I don't know if I'm the only one, so I'll try to avoid it. But being this panel, I just wanted to point out a few things. So, firstly, I'm not from the government. I've always worked for the industry. And I'm working now at the site of Agoria, which is the federation representing the technology sector. Now, it started in 1946, so we still have metallurgy, Arcelor, Umicore, until the most sexy and cool Gen AI organization, more than 2,000 members. And why do I say that? Because the people which I see here are a lot of people from the government, all levels and all colors and all responsibilities, are a few already delivering to the government, but there's a huge package of the industry which is missing. And why do I say that? If we only have €1, we can't spend 2. So we need to see on how can we really optimize by working together in an ecosystem, because thank you, and I do understand why we need to align between different member states, but there is a tsunami on acts and policies falling on our heads, and some of them are not necessarily aligned between the different DGs neither. I've heard some discussions about data spaces, which is done by one DG, and then we have the interoperability, which is done by another DG. So it is, how can we change the world tomorrow by having this kind of sessions, but taking into account that there may not be a stakeholder group which is missing in the room. So that's a first point. The second point is that we as a federation, obviously, and we collaborate with Digital Europe on that one, we try to influence proactively, and then we try to help our members to execute. I think it's already said different times. Even this one leaves us the time to execute. We have a lot of seats which are planned, but not necessarily working together. And that's what Jack is saying. It's true. And you could say, okay, Belgium is a complex country and we've got regions, but I think Spain has also a few regions, and we do not speak necessarily the same language, and Europe has all the different DGs. So how can we succeed in speeding up the alignment between everything? And I know that Europe is sometimes saying, yeah, but that's a member state, and I read a question, and is what is Europe going to do to help the member state? So we're pointing to each other. May I just say, it's not, we don't have the time anymore to point to each other. So now we need to go in a period of acting. And if we talk about interoperability, yeah, voilà, that word. Huh? we have all the pieces of the puzzle. Now the question is, who is going to dare to make the puzzle? Because it means that the government's role in general, every job will change. And then I come to my Be the Change story. Every job will change. So it means, dear policymaker, that your job will change. It means, dear government, that in a data economy where everything is connected, your job will change. It means, dear industry of federation, your job will change. So if everybody continues to do and to fill in the future like we did yesterday, we're never going to get there. So I just want to sensibilize people on dare to disrupt, dare to take shortcuts. And a last point, I've got sometimes difficult in a moment of crisis and financial crisis that we are using our tax money to start developing pieces, while having a lot of the pieces are already developed. So why do we have to use 50 times tax money to make 50 different pieces instead of focusing on one transversal ecosystem? I think that would be much wiser, knowing the financial pressure we are all having.
Thank you so much, Saskia. I have a suggestion for you. You can simply say IOP instead of interoperability. I think it's really a word that doesn't naturally roll off our tongues.
So I'm less frustrated.
You're not the only one. I take a few points from your intervention. So if you have €1, you can't spend 2. I think this is super wise. And especially what you said towards the end, we have the pieces of the puzzle. Now, who's going to put that puzzle together? Or we have the ingredients for the lasagna. Who's going to bake the lasagna? And who's going to taste it as well? So I think it's really a joint responsibility. And the Act kind of gives us some elements with the board, with the working groups. But we do need to have the courage to make those things happen. Thank you, Saskia. Let's hear from Martin next, please.
Try to say minimal interoperability. No, thanks for the invitation, and thanks for putting, the voice of us all somehow also on the stage. So I represent Open Agile Smart Cities and Communities, which is a global network of local communities, born global in Europe. There's 80-something thousand local governments in Europe. There's 500,000 globally, and we all live there. So it's kind of something that it doesn't get any closer. And it's actually a point. So when we take, let's say, a local perspective, well, of course, there's the local authorities, there's the neighborhood, but we define local as everything that has something above, right? So region would be local seen from the national perspective. Some might see the member states as local, as seen from a European perspective. Some might even see Europe as a local in the global region. So always, it's actually also what you say, try not to be so specific about which level in Denmark is doing something, or which level here in Belgium is doing something, but let's see about, what are the interactions, what are the transactions that we can facilitate better. So we're a community of communities that came together to work actually on interoperability since 10 years. Also because the learnings that we get from the individual interactions, the projects and so on, they tend to disappear. So you were not here since the 50s, but other colleagues were here. So how do you keep learning so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time? Because no, we do not have the time to do that. But then how do we do it in a proper way where it's not just put on us? So we would like to see, or ask to be the voice of communities in the digital transformation towards big tech, but also, big policymakers. So that's one thing. It's in a way the legitimacy, and I mean, why have a voice in this? Well, there's a lot of local communities. The other thing is then how to make it implementable, how to make it practical. And yes, we mentioned standardization. Me being an academic, I can certainly discourage everyone to go from a good idea to a standard. There's sort of something in between. So much of the challenge is how can we speed up this process of very fast feedback and learning in practice with all the stakeholders, very much siding with, the market providers, but ensuring that it happens, on proper terms. So this agile piloting, the validation of the good ideas. So now that the Interoperable Europe Act is going into force faster than any of the other acts, how do we learn fast? So that's one of the roles that we play, try to organize, of course, a lot of piloting and validation across sectors, in fact, because when all of these sectorial things, they come down to the local level, well, it all becomes one lasagna. You don't make different ones. There's only one home. So how can we then still have something, a common base that you can provide, whether it's data or digital services or even the governance around it? So how can we crystallize that, and with the partners like who you present on the Belgian level, we have in all the member states working together with the governments, but also all the actors who then have to follow this. And here the standard will not save us. It will be the practice-based communities who know how to make business, who know how to be the government, and also who have guidance on how to making it work in practice. So we try to close that gap between in principle, this would be super nice, and then actually working. So it's a lot of alignment, but also it's a lot of practical learning. So how do we crystallize that into institutional learning as well as, some technical and management standards? So that would be really nice to see that also coming out now of the process. You said now we have the thing, the act. Well, now we have to enact it.
Thank you so much, Martin. It's super interesting what you said and what you asked all of us. How do we take a great idea to market? How can we make sure that it's the right thing to do? And how come we avoid a mistake by going too quickly to a standardization, thinking that this is the right way to go? So super valid questions. Hopefully we'll get some answers today as well. Natalia, you're the next one to go, please.
Yeah, so I think our focus now is just to take holidays after SEMIC is done. I think everybody, yeah, they agree. Yeah? Okay. No. So, well, I see that there is quite a to-do list that you are putting on us. But I would like to follow on this from ideas to implementation. And I'm in a privileged position in the Commission because, in fact, we have indeed developed the Interoperable Europe Act, and we have, this is the great idea. And you all agree with that. But also in the directorate, we are implementing interoperable solutions. So it's kind of, okay, this is the theory. Now let's see how we implement. So we are also very hands-on, looking at technology, how we can use this technology to indeed offer this cross-border, but I would say it's also cross-domain, is these principles that go behind interoperability, the ones only. Well, we in the Commission, we are not only policymakers, we are also a public administration ourselves, so we have to also implement, make ourselves an efficient institution. We have to work on once only. Why should we ask twice, three, several times the same thing? Reporting obligations. We have a lot of friends about that in the private sector. So there is where we are working. And indeed now we are focusing on how we can change the way the Commission works, not only from a technical perspective, but also from a policy perspective, to look at, okay, which data are we asking to the industry? Why we are asking those data, which is that data, and how we can make sure that we don't ask it twice, several times, for different purpose, for the same purpose, but from different policies. So this is something that we are working, we are doing right now. Not saying it's done, it's over, but I think that we have indeed, as Leontina was saying, we have now all the ingredients. Now we have to put them and we start cooking them together with you. And here we have indeed the both views. We work with the member states, we see what are the needs out there, but we also implement part of those for internal usage. And I would add also another element, which is the innovation and what Saskia was saying, why should we reinvent and implement? And she mentioned a number, I would say sometimes it's more than 27 times that we are paying to do the same thing. And there has been a session on reusing also before. And this, I think, is a mindset that we have to work on. And indeed, I agree, this has to be together, the public and the private sector hand in hand.
Thank you, sir. Just add something on the lasagna?
Absolutely, please.
And there is somebody who's having hungry, but there was a question on, and sorry for, it was a good idea to take that as an example, but it's layers. And you can add layers, but like was mentioned, it still remains a lasagna.
Yeah.
So maybe we should do, now it's warmer outside, maybe we should make a salad. and mix things better. And I hear a lot, and there was also a question on how can we create a win-win for Europe and for the member states? It's as if this is a competition. I hear a lot of, and AIDAS was a good example, there is nothing to win in creating that connected world. So you cannot be better than your other region, or you cannot be better than your other country. There is no prizes to win. So let's just do the basics, what we all have to do. Let's make it working, and then we can start adding some aspects to the salad. But let's not avoid to do a competition between the different parties.
Great, and Saskia, thanks a lot from already answering some of the questions that come from the audience. So I really encourage you to interact with each other and build on each other's answers. Now for the round two, and talking about food, I will make things a little bit spicier. So you talked a lot about ingredients and puzzle. So now I would actually like you to name what you think the crown jewels are for digital government, and what can we actually use to bring a strong foundation for digital government. And in addition to that, I will ask each of you a follow-up question, and you have just a couple of minutes to answer that. So crown jewels and a follow-up question. And this time I will start from Natalia. So Natalia, your follow-up question is, how can we make the best of the Interoperable Europe Act? And what do you think are the crown jewels for building the next generation digital government? Please.
Yeah. So this morning I was talking about the crystal ball and knowing what the future will be. But indeed, we already have the crown jewels, the foundations out there. And with the Act now, we have, this has been mentioned throughout the day, but just to repeat it, we have the Interoperable Europe Board. And this is about cooperation, how we can do things together. There is no competition, no. It's, okay, let's work together, but not just talking. Let's put together an interoperable agenda. What do we want to achieve? And you know, from there, then we will be able to put which is the funding, which are the best ways to implement those. All together, the Commission alone cannot do that. That's clear, and we need all of you to be together and be part of it. I think that something has also been mentioned is, and you said, if we did like, you know, in the past, we won't change. So innovation is something that is key. Now, I know public sector and innovation are not always words that work very well together, but this is why a way of innovating, an easier way, is to do it together. Because then, okay, we share a bit the risk, we can then go further also, perhaps a bit slower, but at least we will go further. And this is something that we are putting forward. This is also in the Act, so we talk a lot about interoperability, but innovation is a foundation that is included in the Act. And innovation is not only to do you know, new things, but also to do the things differently and to engage more also with the private sector. So I will come back again to saying that we should not reinvent the wheel each time. We have to engage with the GovTech ecosystem. I know that I talked to some of the people involved in GovTech, how we can make sure that we can have startups and SMEs working with the public sector, because this also will help all the other industries that perhaps are not so much related, but they will benefit for this innovation in the public sector. We are also having regulatory sandboxes. And I think this is something really very important, because there we will, you know, test first and implement afterwards and regulate afterwards. Because if we regulate, you know, it's like going too fast to the standard. So we regulate, and they say, okay, let's see how we implement. With the sandboxes, we will be able to test to see which is the best approach that we have to take for the implementation. And the last point is indeed on sharing and reuse. This is also something that we have to work. There was a comment also how we can encourage to share data. It's not only about data, it's about sharing and reusing, not always thinking, okay, it's not done here, so I will do it, because I'm much better than anybody else. No, and this is also, you know, we have €1, we cannot spend 2. It's the same. If we have a solution that is already out there, instead of having to start from scratch and inventing the whole thing, with the same money, you can get much more, because you will start with something that exists, and you will improve that to get much more. So I think there it's also economic value that we can get by sharing and reusing what we have. And just to point out, this is something that is mandatory with the new Act that we are having.
Thanks so much, Natalia. And indeed, the Act provides the first legal framework for share and reuse. And actually, the legal bit is the biggest barrier when we want to use one solution from another. So thank you for that. We'll go next to Martin. So crown jewels, and then a bit of a provocative question for you. Why should we care about the regional and the local level? What do they bring to the table? Please.
Well, maybe to start on the last point. So first of all, well, it's all of us. So avoid it at your own peril. I think there are at least 3 things that the local level, the local perspective can really bring. One is regarding identity. So I think the biggest risk, clearly, in the digital transformation is that it doesn't feel, necessary or something for me or my community. We already see, strong reactions regarding the digital transformation. So if we jump from these shiny ideas very quickly to legislation or to standardization, and it doesn't resonate broadly, it will show up in the polls. And no more regulation or no more collaboration, it will just be very difficult. So one thing, to resonate with the identity, and I think Europe really has something to offer to the world. Second is plain and simple economy. The buying power of the local level is about 1/3 of the European GDP. Just ensure that you, enable that to support what you're saying, Saskia, that you can actually get good stuff off the shelf. The third part, and maybe, I don't know if that's behind your thinking that it's provocative to ask, I think the local level provides a lot of innovation, a lot of initiatives, a lot of pilots, a lot of very practical collaboration. And that, I think, really can be embraced and supported by the levels above. Now, again, not discriminating any levels, but everyone is local in some context. So think about how we can learn from these, more situated examples and get them up. And one thing I know, the next SEMIC will be in Copenhagen, my hometown. The colleagues are here from Denmark and eagerly learning from, what's happening here. So what can we do, from now on until next SEMIC in Copenhagen that we have done? Agile, piloting, not just on the technology. There are good programs for that, but also for the agile policy piloting and ensure that it actually involves not just all levels, but also all sides of the market. That would be a very nice benchmark and, well, I think an invitation to the next team to see what can we do on the practical level.
Thanks a lot, Martin. Actually, you've given us a lot of carrots and sticks to make sure that we take the regional and the local level into account. And you're absolutely right. The local level sometimes does miracles with very little resources because they don't have a lot of money at their disposal, so they have to do with what they have. And sometimes they just make miraculous things in a very short period of time. So we need to make sure that we piggyback on those solutions, ideas, and we bring them up at national and European level. Thank you very much for that. Saskia, we go to you next. So crown jewels, which are the pieces of the puzzle? And then your follow-up question is human at the center. How can we actually build human-centric digital public services? Please.
I think the example which was given is a good example. At the end of the day, we are a big organization and we have a few customers. And if you don't, out of your organization, you don't work in the interest of your customers, you will not have customers. Here it's called differently. You got Europe and you got the government, you got the citizen. So at the end of the day, if you do not answer to the requirements of the citizen, you can do whatever you want, but you can't say that you will be successful. A few points on building on that one and also the word on sandboxes. We need to realize that we come from a world where you could get access to funding if you do 3 things. First, you need to make an analysis to show that there is a problem. Now, I hope that most of the people in the room know what problems we have. So it can be very good for the academic world and for the researchers, but making analysis for an analysis is not necessarily using the budget-wise. Then you need to make something new, a new initiative, as if we do not have enough initiatives in place. And then there is a third step. Then the initiative dies in silence because there's no money anymore. So what do? We go back to point one, we make an analysis, we make something new, and we die in silence. So I think we need to change the way we get access to the funding based on two steps. First, you need to scale what is already existing. Don't make something new. Take something which is existing and make it scale. Scale locally, scale regionally, scale internationally, whatever, scale it up. And the second step should be, and that's an answer to your point, should be, please give a budget on communication. Yes. We don't know what exists. And if there is something I can never do, then it's marketing and communication in whatever budget I can access to. So I think that's the first point. The second point is, if this would be a company, sorry, but my P&L wouldn't look very good. I would have 27 CIOs, with in each business line 5 others, making their strategy, their vision, their way, I mean, this doesn't work like that. And let's be honest, we are organized like that. So I think at all levels, local level, please get one vision, one person responsible instead of a lot. Then it's possible to make one strategy, and at least you can progress, because we will lose, first we will lose less money, and secondly we will have capabilities to progress. And then the last point, and that's coming back to skills and competences, and normally I should be in front of a classroom or give physical education, so I have nothing to do with technology. But I've learned that some people having very high responsibilities in this subject don't have a clue of what they're talking about. And some of them are writing policies, and any comparison with any person in the room is completely by accident, so don't take it personally. But constant reskilling should also be our individual projects. It's not acceptable anymore that somebody is talking about cyber or AI or not knowing what we're really talking about. So I would really put an emphasis that everybody go back to school, you make your own lifelong learning project, and maybe you have other competences which can be certainly valorized, but get a connection with those who know the subject as soon as possible in the discussion, and not at the end. I think that would be more efficient also.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Saskia. And indeed, communicate, and then communicate some more if you really want to get the message through. So hopefully that's what we're doing today as well, and we'll be doing it next year in Copenhagen. Jack, we come to you. So crown jewels, and your follow-up action is actually related to AI. So what do you think we need to develop an artificial intelligence-enabled digital government?
I don't know. Hearing my neighbors from the right side, the pressure was increasing. But I'm thinking already about you, because you know, I thought it was a recruitment discussion, because I said they are doing a neuropsychological test by I need to keep focus on the components of all the food they were mentioning, because probably you will ask us lasagna in summary, salad, steak, spicy, and so on. Then I forgot everything. Then more seriously, what we have now with the Act is that we, after a long journey, we are aligning from a leadership point of view, a real shared vision that we will continue to share from bottom up and top down, which is very important. All what has been said about duplicating platforms, feeling so different and so on, I think we are changing. Initiative taken by the Commission by launching EDIX. I hope that everyone in the room knows what EDIX is. Then European Digital Infrastructure Consortia or MCP program and so on will be fantastic opportunities that we are working together. Then about the jewels we have is that it's unbelievable what we have in the public sector that we can leverage. We have And of course, being really respectful from the privacy of the people, security, and so on, for the sake of clarity. We have data, and we can use those data platforms, connection, to make sure that they are talking to each other. And you know, we had a dream not so long ago, and we can leverage about only one thing. You click on a button, and everything is done by you. Then I'm connecting to AI. You know, AI related to the capabilities is that we have huge opportunities to get optimization of our services. We have huge demand, because I was happy to hear about, because we forgot sometimes about, oh, we talk about system, architecture, standards, but what about the user, the citizen, the enterprise? And what we need to do is reverse the look. We look from them and see what's relevant to do, and how do you see simplification, for example? And we build a system, the
That word.
Thank you. Then you have to sing normally the name together. Then what we have is that to have all those systems working together easily. Then we have the data, we have the connection with the enterprise and citizens, and we have the capabilities now with technology. And we worked a lot to have the underlying layer, because we still have lasagna. We need transport network to connect the platform. We need computing capabilities to do that. And we need those systems to work together to make it possible. Then what we are doing now is understanding why we want to use AI. AI will help us to, one, improve the service we are providing daily to the citizen using AI based on really interoperable system. Secondly, it will improve automation from internal processes by being capable to integrate what's happening in the back end to provide a very tasty lasagna with salad and beef and spicy. And last but not least, we will also gain from this journey on efficiency. And you know that we have to pay back some of the previous crises, is that we will gain on efficiency by doing that in terms of using AI, for example, to improve our capabilities to gain efficiency in terms of costing and the cost to provide. Because I don't agree with you, we are not using the same KPI, always that's private sector, but you give me an idea, maybe I should invoice my services, and I think it might be interesting. But more seriously, yes, we have to ask the question, do we provide the best cost-efficient services to the citizen? Because at the end of the day, this is the citizen paying. Then unbelievable opportunities, and AI may certainly contribute to that.
Thank you so much, Jack. And indeed, I think we're going to keep on talking about AI and trying to include AI in digital public services to the extent possible for automation, for making things more efficient, but many other things as well, like proactive services. And we talked about that in the morning as well. So thank you for that. Then we come to you, Hilde. So crown jewels, same question as for everybody else. And then your tailored question is, how can government data sharing unlock better public services? Please.
Thank you. Well, what Martin and Saskia said, it chimes a lot with me. And my colleagues, some of whom are in the room, know very well, colleagues, there's only one reality. If we need interoperability, it's because we have first sliced things up ourselves. And secondly, we work better when we work on a shoestring budget, because we have to be inventive, we are forced to reuse, and we have to be more creative. On the crown jewels, I'm not going to repeat everything that everybody else already said, maybe a few elements of spice that I can add. Like on everything, you need to look at three key dimensions: people, process, technology. People, I think user-centric design, we really need to think for whom are we doing that? What will be, how will it be used in real practical life? Again, there's only one reality, let's not forget that. Accessibility, inclusivity, trustworthiness, explainability, especially when we start looking towards AI. And of course, in our type of business, AI is big and very important. Data protection, and then something we're very much attached to in Europe, multilingualism, which is an aspect of accessibility. Of course, you need to have skilled people who know what they're talking about, but also the citizens need to be helped in using all of that. On process, obviously, we need collaboration, partnerships, clever partnerships that look, again, at this one real reality. That's, of course, one of the objectives of the Interoperable Europe Act. You need to prioritize, because every euro you can use it only once, and preferably to prioritize together based on a common vision. And then on technology, something that none of you mentioned, but maybe also partly because of my background working many years on Russia and Ukraine, cyber security, right? If this goes wrong, we can forget about everything else. So that's what I would say on the crown jewels. On how we can bring better public services using government data sharing, well, if you really share the real data, you make better decisions because you know what you're talking about. And you come also with more effective, better targeted solutions. Natalia was speaking about the ones only. Obviously, if you, for these reporting obligations, for instance, you ask the same thing only once and you keep the information, it saves time and effort for everybody else. Then, of course, because you share data, you increase transparency, accountability, you facilitate greater public participation in decision-making, which again is important for citizens' trust. And then, by sharing data, you also encourage innovation, because these data are really, they can be a basis for new ideas, new services, better products. And that, in turn, is then, again, good for citizens' trust. Because if you really provide as public service what these people that we are part of ourselves really need, what the businesses really need, that shows the value of having a government. Of paying taxes, of getting something back for what you're contributing to the society. So it contributes to democratic resilience, to resilience of our society, and I think in the days in which we are today, that's more important than it has been on many other occasions of our history. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hilde. Well, actually, it's very good to plan, but the plan may not always work. So that's the case today, because we are almost out of time. We have 1 more minute. Yet, as I did promise the audience that we will take a question from the audience, I know that some of our panelists already reflected upon the questions that were here for us to read. I would like to take 1 question and invite one of you to answer it very, very quickly, and then we will close up. So I actually like to link to what you said, Hilde. You talked about trust. So we have 1 question here which says, how can we encourage entities, people, organizations, so this means private, public, whomever, to share their data? So who would like to answer the question? Hilde? Yeah, please.
Very briefly, I think like with everything, you need to demonstrate why it's important. So my colleagues publish data stories in which they explain in like 2 pages, a 2-page story, what you can do by sharing data, why it's good for everybody, what the benefits are. I think that's would be my answer to that, demonstrating why it's important.
Demonstrate what's important. That's the incentive to share data. I think that's a very good one. Thank you very much, Hilde. And now to close, in the morning, Natalia, as you were moderating the first high-level panel, you granted a wish to the panelists. So I'm extending the same to you today. So very shortly, in just a couple of words, if you were to make a wish for the Interoperable Digital Europe, what would that wish be? So let's start with you, Natalia. As you are the one asking the question in the morning, you have your wish granted now.
Well, perhaps my first wish would be to finish the menu. We have the salad, the lasagna, so we need the dessert, just to have it completed. No, but I like, I missed it. In the slide, there is a proposal to also go local and regional with SEMIC.
Oh.
So why not? I think that we should spread interoperability everywhere so that everybody can pronounce it. We will get there. But also perhaps, I mean, I wish. I have seen today there is so much commitment, good ideas to move forward with interoperability. I have had some challenges and some barriers, but I have to say today it was really a very positive message towards interoperability. So I wish, as Martin was also saying, in the next SEMIC, we will have very concrete examples on where we are.
Thank you so much, Natalia. Wish granted, we will organize the next SEMIC somewhere else than a capital. Martin, your wish, very shortly.
I wish we can do what Europe does best, and that's collaborate on finding what is the minimal but sufficient level of legislation, of standardization, of interoperability. So this Goldilocks, so we're not doing everything because it's too complex and will just be a train wreck and everybody will be sorry and we will have spent 10 years finding out. So if we can work and make that a priority to find out what is what we can agree on. And that will align the 27 CIOs and so on some things, but it will never happen on everything. So let's forget that grand design vision. Forget it. Minimal but sufficient. So I would hope that we could come together around that.
Thank you so much. What is good enough? That's a great wish. Saskia, your wish.
Let's dare for tomorrow. That's not by accident the title of my latest book, but what I mean is that what we dare today to do in a disruptive way will not have an impact for us, but will give me the guarantee that at least we are to be reminded as the people who made the society for our children and our grandchildren where I can be proud of. If we don't do it today, then we only have a disaster coming up. So it's our responsibility. And sometimes people say, yeah, but I'm not Mrs. van der Leyen and I'm not the CEO and I'm not the Prime Minister. I think you can say to yourself, I am Mrs. van der Leyen. So now, if you are Mrs. van der Leyen, what would you do? And that's the point, because there was a question, how do I convince my hierarchy? It's just that way. Just think that you are the CEO, you are the Prime Minister, what would you do? And just make it happen.
Thank you so much. I love that. Let's dare more and let's be brave as well for tomorrow. Thank you, Saskia. Jack, your wish.
That the lasagna will be as high as possible and a big portion, because I love it. As a citizen, just getting the governments everywhere, anytime, any device, just clicking and doing nothing. As an enterprise, making sure that I don't have to search every platform cross-border. I am from the north to the south, from the east to the west. It will become the SDG like number 4.0 across everything. And as a technician, becoming so lazy that I don't have to focus and stress every time I have to move a platform to connect with another, because it will be so seamless to do it, that it will be so interoperable, that it's so easy that I can sit back and relax at every new release. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So everything at our fingertip. Great. Hilde, your wish.
Thank you. Well, for me to make it work for everybody so that these better public services are really available for everybody, whatever their nationality, wherever they live, in a village or in a big city, whatever they do, whether they're a software engineer or whether they're actually working in a bakery, whatever their language, and please, as soon as possible, as practically as possible. Thanks.
Thank you so much. As soon as possible, as easy to use as possible. That's a great way to end today's panel. I would like to thank our panelists today and the audience. Loads of ideas, loads of enthusiasm. Now let's give a big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much. Philip, the floor is yours.